I thought for today that we might go back in time to your residential school experience, and if you could reflect on really how the events and the tragedies, um, the human experiences that happened to you as a child actually impacted you immediately, and how your experience as a child at a residential school impacted you.
Well, when I first arrived there, I was welcomed there by my first cousin. They didn't like brothers and sisters hanging out with one another, but they didn't take that my cousin was last name was Gabriel and mine was Pelkey. They didn't take that as family, eh? And he's the one that welcomed me into the residential school and kind of introduced me, brought me in, and that's helped me settle into the residential school. But over time, I was there. I seen so much happen around me, but one of the biggest ones was this girl and her brothers. The village of Penelakut is behind the island of where the residential school was, and they were day school people that came to the school from their village every day, walked to school. But I guess she lost her dad or something in a fishing accident. And then they all ended up, this one family ended up in residential school. She was in my class. Her little brothers were in other classrooms younger than her. I don't know what grades. But she had long black hair when she used to be a day school student. And then when she came into the residential school, they shaved it all off. She used to sit behind me. That's why I noticed her the way she was when she came into the school with all her hair gone. And but during that summer months, because of the cruelty to her and her family, they all committed suicide. They were just young. And the boys that I went to school with, I first went to residential school with, that day from day school, we hopped into the Indian agent car. The one boy through the summer drank himself overproof rum or something. I didn't know much about drinking in them days. I was just a kid, but he did. And another boy hung himself around the back of his place in a tree, cherry tree, so he wouldn't have to go back because the abuse was so bad there for both of them. The same boys that were in the car with me when we first went. And because they couldn't get accustomed to adapting to the day school or residential school, like with my cousin being there and introducing me to everybody. Um, that's how I made my adjustments by copying him and what he did during the day and stuff. These two other boys found themselves alone a lot, and I guess they were badly abused, and that's why they never went back. And that one boy, I say, he was so badly abused. I seen him getting beaten up by the priest in front of us, and I never knew why he was always being picked on. And then I've later on in life been through counseling, you talk about things like this, and the counselor said it's because that priest owned him. He was having too much fun with the other boys, and that angered him. So that's why he used to get beat up in front of the boys. So one day in August, this boy walking along the highway seen this transport truck coming down the road, threw himself under it rather than going back to be abused anymore. And those guys, those are these boys I used to hang out with quite a bit in the residential school. And of course, everybody always talks about that, their incidents and what happened to them all the time. So you're quite well aware of what's happening when they don't come back. And for a little, like I was around 9, 10 years old, and you're talking about these boys taking their lives or what happened to them. Like even my sister ran away, one of my older sisters from that residential school I was at. Like I told you, it ended up her being locked up for the rest of her days until the residential schools closed down. My oldest sister, she was about 13, 14. She ran away from Mission, ran to Vancouver, tried to straighten out her life, but in the end, she lost it because of the life she lived. Nowhere to go for them and that. And it all results from this residential school and what happened to them and why the anger and everything as children hurts and angers, why the drinking afterwards. And one boy was found hanging in the gym when we're boys, and we had to go look at him because they wanted to show us what happens to us when we're bad. The devil gets us, and his family had to live with that. They know what happened to them. Him, all the brothers are gone now, one way or another. But that's one in the gym, and yeah, it. Everybody talks about those sort of things of what we had to look at as children in that gym. Boys being beaten up by priests, adults, why they didn't come back. The girl and her badly abused. She had long hair. Her nickname was Princess because of her long hair. And her and her brothers were badly abused. They all committed suicide the summer, about a week or so after, well, apart from one another. When they came home, didn't want to go back. And this all happened, like everybody knows about the boy in the gym at my age that were there. Everybody's seen it. Nobody ever talks about it though, I guess. I talked to the family members and I told them I was going to mention that one day, and they said the more people hear about it, the better.
It's unfathomable, tragic, and cruelty. And just for me to hear this, it's like, did this happen on Earth? Did this happen not in a war? Like if we were in a war, those would be war crimes. People
Yeah.
would be put on trial, and they would be either killed or they would be in jail for the rest of their lives for doing what people did to you. What sort of age group? Just so there's some context as people hear this. Are
From
we,
10 to 12 years old, still very young. But like I told my daughters, sometimes with their counseling and that they have to go through I always told them the depression, sadness, and that loneliness and hunger at that school. That's all I remember as a child, and that's what they inherited, my depression and sadness, missing my mother. I never knew my dad because he got killed in a car accident when I was 3. That's why they took us to residential schools. My dad was going to be a hereditary chief, like I said. That's what the elders all told me about him. But all the boys, we used to sit at the window and look towards Chemainus and wish we're at least in Chemainus away from this place, as children. And everybody talked about wanting to be home, but everybody went through that. And I understand why a lot of the guys, what saved me too is my soccer, being an athlete and wanting to play in the tournaments and native tournaments and stuff like that. And it kept me away from the drinking and partying and all that sort of stuff.
so um, does talking about it help, like in even the smallest of ways? Does talking about it heal? If
Yes.
one can ever heal, no, clearly nobody can heal from that. But listening to these stories, you've indicated numerous times that that has been one of your healing, saving graces has been talking to your elders about this or them helping you talk about it. If other folks listen to these videos, I know it's going to upset them, but at some point they're going to also feel like have some sort of positive, like talking about it.
Yeah. Imagine they know people that have gone through, there's so many generations of people that went through residential school, and they probably know somebody. But talking about it, like I told Betsy, it's good to release all of this. And it I don't have to take it to the grave like my mother did of the way the Indian agents, because my mother couldn't hardly speak English or write her own name, and they made her feel like dirt because of that. And taking us away is because my parents couldn't speak English. My father had passed, and we were the perfect candidates to go into these schools. And I think talking about it, I release a lot of it. And I'm very grateful to Betsy and you for allowing me to tell my story. Whereas, like my youngest brother would never talk about it, or my younger sisters would never want to talk about those residential schools. They wanted to put it all behind them, forget about everything. But it's because I talked to my mother when she was dying of cancer. And like I said to Betsy, she took a lot of it with her to the grave. And me telling my story, I don't have to. And the healing are the elders, are the counseling, the strong counseling that I went through. I wanted to be a better dad to my children. And that was the drive in me to take back, because I couldn't be a dad. I wasn't taught to be a dad in residential schools or foster homes. But I'm lucky the elders were here. They were my parents talking to me. That helped me turn the corner. There's one thing here. The soccer team, the T-Birds, were a championship team,
Yeah.
and then all the boys on there were residential school soccer players. We won everywhere. But the guy in charge said to the boys, "You guys are all residential school soccer players." He says, "Let's show the people one good thing that came out of the residential schools, and that was you boys."
Mm.
He said to us because we were all residential school soccer players and winning. But that's one thing that always stuck with me when he said that. Let's show the one good thing that came out of residential school, and that's you boys.
Mm.
So I've always carried that with me.